way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dare to, oh why can't I? Upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like a lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. The dreams that you dare to, why can't I?
Yes, that's why, please.
So thanks everybody for coming. Very much appreciate it. I'm not going to do a lot of talking about Karelle today because I can't, to be honest. And to be honest, that's why you're all here. and I think you're going to do a far better job at that than I think I would. So we've got a whole bunch of people who want to talk about Karelle, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what they've got to say. So we know that Karelle's impacted so many lives, and every single one of them in a very positive way, I think. And so today is a celebration of that. No doubt we'll have one or two tears, but it's a celebration of Karelle's life and the way Karelle lived her life. And it's also a lesson for us, I think, in how to live our lives. I'm going to stop sounding like a preacher now, but I think Karelle had a certain way of living, and it was eloquently put by Johanna actually when she captured the essence of it. What's going on there? Are we still working? Yeah. So when Johanna captured it by saying she's not just a girl, she's a goddamned way of life, and I think that sums it up, and hopefully Johanna will talk a little bit more later. As you can see, we've brought the cream of the crop of the industry professionals here today, and Pete is at the peak. No, seriously, thank you everyone. So this has taken quite a lot of setting up, and we're very fortunate that Karelle just happened to be in the right industries where these people could come together. So I'm not going to name you all, but there's a whole bunch of technicians who've been working around the clock trying to sort this out for the last week or so, and I appreciate very much all the work you've done. Karelle was a bit worried during the COVID crisis that she wouldn't have a good funeral, and she wanted a good funeral. She wanted us all to celebrate her life, and she wanted people to come together. And I promised her that if that was possible in any way, we would make that happen for her, and I'm very, very proud that we've all managed to do this for her. So again, thanks everyone for making that happen. Now, risk-averse Walker, as I often used to call her, used to often say to everybody, but me particularly, it's about what can you see, what can't you see, and what can you reasonably expect to happen. Very risk-averse was Karelle. It came from riding motorbikes originally, but I think it's a kind of way of life for her as well. And so we should apply that concept a little bit today. We're still in the middle of this pandemic. The chances are one of us here has probably got COVID-19. So I would just ask you to respect different people's attitudes to risk. If you want to go and hug someone, ask permission first. Keep the separation that you feel comfortable with, basically. I think we've done a good job at trying to set this up so that we're all in our own comfort zone, so please pay mind and heed to that. Right, so in terms of what we're going to do now in the order, we're going to start off with a message from our sponsor, which is Karelle, and I think we've already handed out a poem that she wrote for you in January, and Maria's going to read that for us. Then we're going to have some thoughts from some of the close family. Then we're going to have a combination of some music, some prepared speeches, some recorded speeches, and frankly anything impromptu. Anything impromptu that if you want to just come up to this mic and say something, that's the way I know Karelle would have liked it to happen. So if you feel brave enough to come up and just say something, come and do it. Okay, that's it from me, really. I just want to say thank you to Robert, Francoise and Elise for the strength and the partnership that they've kind of brought to Karelle and I as we went through these last couple of years. It's been it's been really amazing how strong they were and how much they helped us all get through it, and I'll never forget that help. And thank you all for the amazing support. My God, it warms my heart every time I see it, every time I look at the WhatsApp groups, every time I see all the support and thoughts from everybody. So I just want to thank you all as well for taking us through this really difficult time. So I'm going to hand off to Maria now. Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Maria, and just before I start, I know Karelle would want me to say thank you to Des as well. He's thanked all of us, but he's just been amazing. I'm sure we would all agree, so it's on Des. Before I read Karelle's poem, I just want to say a few words myself. Karelle was my friend. She was my best friend. We met whilst working on Dragon's Den and became friends instantly. Not long after that, we took a month off and went travelling in New Zealand together. During that trip, we laughed every single day until our tummies hurt. It was just wonderful. Since then, we've shared many more memories, long conversations, laughter and great times. Karelle knew me better than anyone, so much so she used to finish off my sentences. We always knew what the other one was thinking. I will miss Karelle every single day. But she will always... But she will always be with me, and I will always know what she would say. She was wonderful, funny, spectacular, strong and inspiring. A few months ago, Karelle told me that she'd written a poem, and it's something she wanted to share with all of you, and it's her message to you from Karelle. Don't name a bench or erect a stone. Don't build a shrine or adorn your home with photographs of memories long gone. Move on. Don't let my legacy be sadness. Don't pity me. This was my story. This is how it played out. Don't run a marathon for me or count the passing years to see the age I should have been, then wonder why it can't be so. Just let go. Don't carry a burden. Don't carry grief as a burden when you can. Lay it down. Rely on me to watch over you. Don't hold back the tears. Let them flow. Don't hide your pain. Let others know. Accept support and take your time. You'll be fine. Do one thing for me, though, if it were to please you. Whenever you raise your glass, remember, I will always be with you in spirits. So please now to Karelle, raise your glass in spirits. To Karelle.
Karelle.
When Karelle wrote this poem, she added a little note on the end. One thing I'd like to leave you with. She said, "You never know what you can endure until you fail to do so. Just remember, I've just gone on ahead to turn on the fairy lights." To Karelle.
We all know that Karelle was a fantastic person. The evidence is here, shown by all her friends and family who have asked to be part of today, either in person or online. She was unhappy at the idea that, because of COVID, no one would be able to attend her funeral. We wish she could see you all here now. Des and his two sons, Jordan and Jacob, and all you, her friends and family, made it possible to give her the send-off she wanted. She loved to come to this park with her dogs and meet some of you here. This fantastic celebration has only been possible thanks to the hard work of many of you who have helped plan it all. You must have picked up some of Karelle's brilliant organisational skills.
I think Des has said some of the things I'm going to say now, but I still want to thank everyone who kept Karelle's spirit up, and ours, throughout the 3 difficult years of her illness. And you did that in so many ways, and I'm going to mention some here. You took it all in turn to drive her to the many hospital appointments she had to go to. You sent jokes via WhatsApp. You went to visit her, cooked her favorite food, brought beautiful flowers, sent cards and good wishes. You all stood up and did a Mexican wave video for her birthday. You contributed to her birthday book with your lovely pictures and great memories of the time you had spent with her. You read and recorded for her a chapter of her favorite storybooks to entertain her when she became too weak to read for herself. I remember that some of you certainly showed good acting talents. We can't mention here all the wonderful things you did for her. All this helped us as well. knowing she was so loved and cared for was so comforting for us. It made it a little easier to bear. We speak to our friends about your incredible kindness and think you are all a wonderful bunch of people. And you remember how we clapped all the NHS care worker. Well, I think you have been caring so beautifully for Karelle. We want to clap for you. A million thank you to all of you.
What do I do when my love is away?
Does it worry you to be alone?
No, no. How do I feel at the end of the day?
Are you sad?
Okay, guys. So what we're going to do now? We've got a couple of people here today who want to talk but can't talk because it's just too difficult for them. So we're going to play a recording that they made beforehand because they had a feeling it might be a problem on the day. So give us a mo and we'll play you a recording from Elise, Karelle's sister, and then a recording from Tash, one of Karelle's great friends.
Had this great ability to create. I remember how, when we were kids, she would create tents in the garden using garden canes and some old curtains that Mum let us play with. When Dad would get bales of peat delivered, that was one of my favourite times because she would create these great adventures for us, like assault courses, which was when I fell in the pond. And one time we set sail in a boat she had created with the peat bales and one of those garden canes tied with the curtains. I can't remember where we sailed to, but I know I loved it. She also created anger in me and often seemed to me to relish in making me so cross then running to tell Mum that I'd been naughty. Like the time she stole my space at the breakfast table, the seat nearest the radiator, and wouldn't move. I did tell her that I would pour milk on her head if she didn't move. She had fair warning, but still went running to Mum to report what I'd done with the milk in her hair and running down her face. She also loved creating toys from sewing kits that we used to save our money up for. And later she created lovely cross-stitch pictures. Of course, as the little sister, I just wanted to do everything she did, and certainly growing up there were a number of copycat activities, so I guess she created a love of craft in me. When I started secondary school, there was a girl in the year above me that thought it would be fun to pick on me one break time. Of course, after my ordeal, I went straight to Karelle, who created a sense of security, making sure that I stood with her the next break time. And giving that girl such a dirty look, I was taken aback. As we became adults, Karelle's creativity never waned, obviously going into a creative profession, but she didn't just create films and good professional practices, she created friendships, and not just for herself. On explaining the sad news to one of my friends, she asked me if I was okay. I explained that Karelle was very canny. She created this massive support network and made sure that we're all in touch with one another. This, as Karelle's first mother-in-law, Eileen, called it, is her legacy of love.
I've got a friend you must meet. I know you'll get on. So when we finally did, we found out Vicky was right. We just clicked. With a belt and braces approach to most things, although both picking partners that wore neither belt nor braces, we bonded over the psychology of life, practical and logical ways to solve problems, much to the boredom of Pat and Des, as their eyes glazed over and they left for the pub. We joined them, of course, after a run or some healthy food to appease our guilt at being unhealthy later. Similar age, no children and both with dogs, we wanted the same kind of holiday. Dog-friendly, child-unfriendly, beautiful countryside and of course a good pub to walk to. So off we went. One of our mini breaks was camping at Sheriff Hutton Castle before Pat and I moved there. She loved the ambience of the place, and when we did finally move there and she got to see inside the one remaining room of the castle, she told me she wanted to get married there, and I needed to sort out the licence in the next 8 weeks. Well, I was like a deer in the headlights at the thought of everything that needed to be done, especially when the registrars told me it usually takes 12 weeks. But she had such faith in me, in everybody, and didn't just tell me what to do but helped me to do it. So of course it got done. The room looked stunning, none of which was my doing. We all know she had the creative eye. We spent the days before the wedding foraging around the castle moats and around the village for flora and fauna, which, much to her annoyance, the sheep would eat as soon as we threw it into the courtyard. Asking people in the village if she could have flowers from their garden and leaves from their trees for her wedding. Of course, they said yes. On the day of the wedding, Pat went to get his hair cut at the barber's in the next village. As he sat in the chair listening to the chat around him, he heard there was going to be a big wedding at the castle. Hundreds of people were going and the road to Sheriff Hutton would be blocked. After the ceremony, as Des and Karelle walked out of the sounding hall, a drone flew over the castle to try and get a glimpse of the huge wedding that was taking place, I imagine. That amused her. She took pictures for me, she said, to use for our new wedding brochure. Those pictures are being sent every week to newly engaged couples, and only recently a history student from York University emailed me to ask if he could use them for his project, as they were so beautiful. Karelle and I could spend hours just talking about anything, everything and nothing, drinking gallons of tea. Karelle was a really thoughtful person, so conscious of making sure everyone else was okay, that no one was ever inconvenienced by her actions, or Des's. Sorry, Des. She told me she was so glad she'd done so much and visited so many places, and if the opportunity arises, just grab it. If you want to do something, just do it. She loved her camper van. She was so happy when they bought that. The fact that she could get everything in order so quickly. A place for everything, and everything had its place. So, of course, Des was never allowed to pack it. Sorry, Des. Thank you, Karelle, for being a good friend, for helping me, for still helping me. However sad I am feeling now, to honour you and show my love for you, I will try to find as much happiness as I can and hold on to it. After all this crying, of course.
Karelle, you're the most exceptional person I ever met, and I lived in 3 continents and met a lot of people. Beautiful, bright, talented, unassuming, the most amazing friend. I have been so blessed, like all of us here, to have met you and be part of your life for the past few years. I have been learning so many things about you in the past few weeks that constantly wows me. Johanna said that you loved everything about Japan. I hope that includes haikus. There was a great loss. Heartache and grief both surrounded me. Good friends around me. I'll miss you forever. Natalia.
Right, so that was Tash, followed by Natalia over in Canada, who I think is with us on the WebEx. So thank you for that, Natalia. Let's take a little break now. By the way, everyone should just kind of eat and drink as we're going along. Most of you are anyway, but just in case you're not, just start on your picnics and then we'll just kick off and just carry on eating and enjoy your food as we go.
Will you search through the lonely earth for me? Climb through the briar and bramble. I'll be your treasure.
Is it working? Yay! Can you hear me? I met Karelle in 2012. Neither of us had experienced the myth of glamorous TV until we met. I think it's the most unlikely job I'd meet a new friend, staying in a 5-star hotel in Shanghai. It was of all things an elite model agency corporate, covering their yearly global competition. Fate definitely brought us together, as filming models was neither my bag or Karelle's. Karelle found it highly amusing when I'd threatened to walk down the catwalk strutting my stuff amongst all the models, ask her if she thought anyone would notice. I knew I'd met a fellow silly person when she would film me pretending to be a model. Not even Karelle's legendary camera skills could pull that one off. The choice of food in the 5-star hotel was pretty vast, but we wanted to venture into the real Shanghai. A British expat spoke Mandarin and took us out on the town, ending with a meal which Karelle described to me recently as the best Szechuan meal I've ever eaten. It's a rare thing to meet someone in TV and to become and remain a close friend from one single encounter on a job. But we did. Karelle is not the kind of person you want to let go of. One of my favourite memories was my birthday in France. Everyone loved Karelle and Des, and nobody rocked a brown coordinated outfit better than those two at the 70s party. Karelle was such a creative woman, full of ideas, from filming to photography, and even her crafty skills sculpting Des and Murphy out of felt. She was the queen of creativity. I will miss our days out with our cameras snapping away. Her love of dogs was another passion we shared. When Murphy was much younger, Karelle met me one time to go dog walking. She sounded quite flustered after taking the tube. "Murphy's done another TFL poo," she told me. "What's that, some dog jargon I've not heard of?" To which she replied, "He had a shit on the tube, Vic." A fond memory of Karelle was a camping trip in Norfolk with Murphy and Marcel. On the campsite, a group of biker men pitched up next to us. The first night we made idle chit-chat with them. Karelle talked motorbikes. The following evening, we all ended up in the same local pub, and we ate on the table next to them. While Karelle was placing our food order at the bar, one of the guys turned to me and said, "Who's the wife in the relationship?" Seems they thought we were a lesbian couple on holiday with our dogs. Aside from all the fun and the good times, Karelle was and will always be an inspiration. And I get the feeling I'm not alone in thinking that. I am in awe of her strength and bravery. People die, but their spirit and influence lives on, and Karelle's will last forever.
Okay, hi everybody. So I first met Karelle, or Special K as I call her, on the other side of the park here when our dogs decided to get to know each other. I remember feeling a huge warmth from her, of feeling really good just being around her, uplifted, inspired, and at the same time hugely at ease. We chatted for ages, and Karelle told me on that first meeting that she had cancer. Though her illness was a dreadful and at times overwhelmingly difficult part of her life, it certainly wasn't all that defined her in that time. Quite simply, Karelle just would not let that happen. Beautiful, courageous, wise, honest, generous, strong, open-hearted, loyal, and with an extraordinary innate talent for bringing out the best in every situation and everyone she met. So first we bonded about dogs, about how amazing they are, how much we love them, the importance of poo bags, and of training. Karelle is an extraordinarily good dog trainer, and I am still not. But basically we agreed that in the grand scheme of things, dogs come first, humans come second. Another of the innumerable reasons I am so lucky to have met Karelle is our shared passion for untangling the conundrums of life, relationships and emotions. But don't be thinking our conversations were all serious and tearful. Oh no. Even on what we'd describe as darker days, a smile, giggle or downright belly laugh was never too far away. So I'd like to share a few Karelle moments with you that I hope will raise a smile. And this is now down to whether I can tell a story, so please, just if you think I'm being funny, just laugh, okay? Karelle never ceased to amaze me. Last year she came up with an absolute shocker of an idea, a brilliant one. We both love vintage furniture, and I've collected and restored furniture for years. One April morning, while out with the dogs, Karelle suddenly stopped walking, and as I turned to ask why, a light bulb appeared above her head, metaphorically speaking. "Claire," she said, "why don't you open a vintage pop-up in my garage in Hackney?" "That's a great idea," I replied, and by the end of our walk, we'd planned it all out. We called the shop First Saturday Vintage, and 6 weeks later, on the 1st of June, we opened. Karelle was simply fantastic in her new role, brilliant with customers and sales, full of fantastic ideas, and with an amazing eye for design. She very quickly earned the title of Brains and her in charge of money, and my role was simply to source and restore and do what she said. We had an absolute blast, and from day one the business was a success. The reality is that Karelle saw something in me that I didn't, and a great opportunity, and she sparked the catalyst for things to happen. What better friend could anyone be? I'm going to start trying to be funny now, okay? Our road trips to source and collect stock became legendary adventures and were always enormous fun. We'd say we were like Thelma and Louise, but without the cliff or the cool car. We'd sometimes plan our trips like military manoeuvres, and other times we'd just drive off in a random direction and see where we ended up. Whatever we did, we always had a fantastic time. Even when Karelle was finding her pain levels really tough, nothing stopped her determination to go out and get on with life. And even the tough days could see us laughing until we almost wet ourselves. There was a time in Wanstead Park when we were out with Debbie, who's over there, and Karelle's scooter battery was running out of power. So we tethered Debs to the scooter with the dog leads so she could do a husky-type run up the hill to get us back to our cars. And that is one of the funniest videos ever. And a time when Karelle was using her wheelchair and we were off on another road trip, this one ending at a pet superstore. Karelle needed the loo, so we stopped at a supermarket on the way. She decided she couldn't wait any longer for the chair to be set up and that she'd be okay to walk. I had to stay in the car because we couldn't park anywhere and I needed to get back to her quickly. And then the phone rings and she says, "Please bring the chair in. I thought I'd get a few things while I'm here, but I can't stand long enough for the tills." So I went rushing in with the chair, and there followed a Benny Hill-style chase up and down the aisles with me looking like a completely demented woman, running around with an empty wheelchair while I tried to catch up with Karelle. When I finally did, she was simply choosing tuna or cheese salad sandwich and asked what I wanted for lunch. On another trip, Karelle was talking to someone on her phone's loudspeaker. We actually always felt a bit bad about this one. Whoever was on the line knew she wasn't well. Suddenly a wasp flew into the car and Karelle and I started screaming like a pair of crazed banshees, flapping hands around and sending the phone flying into the back of the car. Not surprisingly, we scared the heck out of the person on the phone who thought something dreadful had happened to us. Not funny for the caller, but pretty hilarious for us. And one of my favourite moments was actually quite recently when we went to choose the blossom tree that Karelle wanted to plant in her garden. So, like today, we were wrapped up against freezing cold and sleeting rain. We'd had a lovely wander around the garden centre. Karelle knew her mind, always, and when she found the right tree, a huge and beautiful Prunus accolade, I'm saying that for Robert in Latin, that was that, and the deal was to be done. I knew the young sales guy looking after us, very pleasant, very helpful, with a very limited command of English and an accent like Manuel from Fawlty Towers. And that had already caused us some hilarious miscommunication. Anyway, we arranged for the tree to be delivered later that day, and Manuel, as I call him, said we also needed 3 wood stakes to secure the tree while it grew. When we were sorting out payment and Karelle checked the cost of the tree with Manuel, he reminded her, and I just can't do an accent, "There's also the 3 stakes." To which Karelle replied, "What's the point of free stakes if they're not free?" Totally not getting it. I realised straight away what the misunderstanding was, but found it hilarious and kept quiet. Manuel was completely confused, but I think he weighed up that 3 stakes, or 3 stakes, whichever, were worth such a big sale. I waited until we left before I explained to Karelle what had happened. This time I was definitely crying with tears, and after Karelle got over feeling bad that she hadn't paid the extra, she was laughing too. Anyway, I know I've said a lot, but the truth is, I really could never, ever say enough about the absolute wonder of Special K. I'm thankful and so very privileged to know and love you. And as you know, I see this time we've had together as just a step along the way to knowing and loving you always. I see you as sunshine, not rain. I know you as laughter, not tears. I see fields and flowers under a clear blue sky. I see you barefoot and happy and free. Love you.
Hello. I first met Karelle on Dragon's Den probably 13 years ago, and what a special woman she was. And I'd like to just send my apologies for my colleagues who couldn't make it. One's in Brazil, one's shielding, and the other one is working. Now, I've got a message from Paul Mackay, who is the director of Dragon's Den, or he was the director of Dragon's Den then. He goes, I first met Karelle on a dating show many years ago. She was a camera assistant, and a really good one at that. And I knew she would become a great operator, which she duly became. Over the years, she became a very much valued teammate, and I would book her on many jobs. She was funny, kind, calm, gentle, and with a fantastic eye. Just what a director needs. She made me look good many times over. Thank you, Karelle, for being brilliant. I'll miss you. From Paul. We'll all miss you, Karelle.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just going to say some words on behalf of Angela here, who is a very close friend of Karelle's, as we all were. But Angela's been very good at putting some words together, which I agreed to say, and I hope I'll do you and Karelle proud. Dear Karelle, I remember sitting in the car in the early diagnosis days, and you said to me, the way I see it is that I'll have all this extra amazing time to spend with friends and family. That was your incredible positivity and your inner strength. How you looked at something so negative and turned it into a positive. I looked at you in awe for what would not be the last time. And because of Karelle's amazing outlook, we were all fortunate enough to have special time with her. I've been fortunate to be able to call you a close friend for many years. I miss your friendship. I miss our long telephone calls. I miss seeing your name come up on my phone, or the hello there when I called. I miss your encouragement. I miss the way you'd make me see a situation from a totally different perspective. I miss your encouragement. I miss the way you'd make me see a situation from a totally different perspective. I miss you. Over the years, our friendship grew. We've shopped together, drank together, eaten together. We've worked together, watched films together, travelled together, been happy together, been sad and scared together. We've cried together, and more than anything, we've laughed together. We giggled a lot, through the light times and even through the dark times. We even laughed at Des's expense. Funny that. Or indeed mine. You even laughed when I fed you bacon for dinner in my accidental drunken state. Even having driven all the way down and leaving not long after when I fell asleep at the dining table, you still laughed. Your friendship meant the world to me, Karelle, and I was fortunate enough to be able to tell you that and to tell you the impact you had on my life. I've done things that I would never have thought possible, always with your support, your help and wisdom. I know it's my duty to you to make each day count, and that's what I've been doing. When days are tough, I think of you. I ask myself, what would you do? What would you say to me? I know that's what you would want me to do, and Karelle, that's what I will do. And whatever happens, I know I'll always have my amazing friend by my side, and I'm honoured to be your side on your final journey. So long, Karelle. Love you always. Miss you heaps. Ange. Kiss, 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 kiss.
She had a huge loving heart that could brighten one's day, making time for everyone, no matter what way. Her love was for dogs, let's be honest, and days in the park is where she promised. No matter what weather, she'd be there, walking and talking and breathing fresh air. Surrounded she'd be by friends of all breeds and ages, but as always it was Karelle that took centre stages. Some friends would have 2 legs and others would have 4, although we all loved her, Murphy and Kiva loved her more. Walking her dogs was where she was happy. No matter how many hours, never was she snappy. She'd pick up poo and threw many sticks, and in return she'd get her favourite licks. She grew never tired of this game, and like on repeat she would move her feet, pleasing her dogs and never missing a beat. Our friendship involved so many adventures. We skied together in Canada and in France, a hobby we shared really by chance. We climbed up the West Coast Glacier and kayaked Abel Tasman, enjoying the sights that New Zealand could offer. We cycled the English countryside in our padded shorts. We passed many sights as we dodged mosquito bites. Down canal paths and country lanes we went, reading maps on where we were sent. I followed her happily on her missions, just happy to be part of any of her propositions. While on our adventures we talked about everything and shared many things, which brings me to the importance to cheer, as we drank a lot of beer, 'cause we loved it so. Sometimes we drank her very own brew, other times we paid for it, but drank it with some great crew. I treasure these moments that we have shared, grateful to have had our paths paired. Over the years we have shared many tears, both hard times and good times. You were to be my partner in crime. I love you, Karelle, you'll never be forgotten. And so it is with the heaviest heart that we toast you, Karelle, on your final depart.
Hi. Hello. 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 Is it good? Hi, I've taken the mic off like some crappy lounge act. Sorry. Hi, everybody. My name is Johanna. I just want to tell you a little bit about that song that we were just hearing. It's called Babahu, which means hometown. And it was written and performed by a band called Songhai Blues, who are from Mali. And Karelle and I, one of the many trips that we made over and over again was to Mali. I don't know, Des, maybe you'll know, it was like one of the last big jobs that she did, really. And it was a film to document musicians in a country where music had been banned. And the musicians got together to form a resistance movement. And those were some of the musicians that we filmed. I called Karelle up one day and said, listen, music has been banned in West Africa. I'm going. I'd like you to come with me. She said, you're pregnant. I said, I don't care. She said, there's a war. I said, I don't care. I said, you have to come with me. She said, okay, I'm coming. So off we went into a conflict zone and spent 2 years following these incredibly brave musicians as they fought against multiple jihadist groups in their country. And it was, well, there are a million stories that I could tell you, and I won't, because there's a lot of people here who want to talk. It wasn't really just in Mali that Karelle and I shared some crazy times. I could tell you about the time that we were in China, And after a grueling week's shoot on an island in the South China Sea, which, by the way, we reached one of Karelle's life milestones on that trip. She said it was always one of her sort of life goals to film in a bikini. So we filmed in a bikini day after day after day after day in the South China Sea. It was quite grueling in the hot sun, which you guys know she doesn't really like. And so we arrived in this industrial city in the northwest of China to go and film at a surfboard manufacturing factory making surfboards. And everyone had been working incredibly hard. And I thought it would be a real treat if I booked us all massages at this hotel. So I booked it for us and the presenters and the rest of the crew, and we all got massages. And of course, for Karelle and I booked a couples massage, because even though I had spent every breathing moment for the previous 3 months with her, I couldn't bear to be apart from her, even for my massage. So I booked us a couples massage. That's what Karelle was like. You just wanted to be with her, like, constantly. So we get into the massage room and we get under the towels and we're waiting and we're really excited because we're sore, and she's been carrying boxes all across Asia. And in walk about half a dozen Chinese girls dressed as schoolgirls. And I think that the concierge had confused us with a group of businessmen who were staying at the hotel. And these Chinese schoolgirls, in quotes, they sort of look at us, and we sort of look at them, and then there's like a moment, and there's like another moment, and they sort of look at each other, and they're like, yeah, well, we'll massage these two girls. So they jumped up on the table, and what we hadn't realized was that there were bars above the massage tables, and like sort of gymnasts on the parallel bars, these girls start like jumping and skipping and hopping and walking on our backs. And it was pretty much the most painful thing that you can possibly imagine. These girls had no idea how to do a massage. And Karelle and I were in the most, we just could not stop giggling. And the girls could not stop giggling. But we sort of went through the motions. And for 90 minutes, these Chinese schoolgirls jumped up and down on top of Karelle and I. And we were in pain for absolutely days. And I mean, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of stories that I have that are just like this, about being arrested in Ghana and wandering up mountain faces in the Arctic Circle, or sort of driving across rivers in Papua New Guinea. I always made her do things that she was really upset about. As Des said at the beginning, she was so risk averse. And I was like, you can drive through that river. She's like, I really can't drive. I'm like, you can drive through that river. She's like, okay, we're going to drive through that river. She always put aside her like incredible risk averseness for me, which I am so grateful for. But I think, the stories are really fun, right? And we can talk about them on WhatsApp for years to come. And I know we all have similar stories of the time that we spent with Karelle. But the thing that I really want to say is that, there's a big reason why me and so many other females in the industry, producers, directors, other people in the industry, like Sean, Anka, Vicky, Melanie, Joanna, Shauna, who you're going to hear from later, Maria, like all of us in the industry really gravitated towards Karelle. And the reason why we have so much to say and why we've written such beautiful pieces about her today is that she lifted us, right? She lifted lots of bloody heavy boxes of equipment, but mostly what she did when she was out on a shoot is that she lifted people. And in our industry, it's not easy to get ahead if you're a woman. It's not easy to feel confident in what you're doing. But I've never wanted to be anything other than a filmmaker, but even after 10 years of directing television I didn't feel happy in what I was doing. There was like a disconnect. I wasn't being listened to by the people I was working with, or maybe I was too insecure to raise my voice. I mean, whatever it was like being stuffed into a little box, and I was in a massive creative rut, and I didn't know that I was in this rut because I didn't know what I was missing. And then one day I met Karelle. And it was her 30th birthday. So that's showing our age a little. We were filming a CEO in an office block on Trafalgar Square. And the video was basically this CEO firing like most of his staff. And he was doing it via video. So it was pretty much the worst job that you can possibly imagine. But I needed the money and she needed the money. And somehow we got put together on this shoot. And it turned out really well. Like much to our horror, this hideous film turned out really, really well. And it was because of Karelle. And as we started to work together regularly, who I was as a director began to emerge, like properly. And she was like the key, and she unlocked me. I began to attempt projects of my own. She helped me to understand everything that I could be, and I felt so inspired whenever we were together. She didn't even have to say anything. Just the mere fact her presence being there inspired me somehow, even though all of her ideas were amazing. Basically, whenever she opened her mouth, she said something amazing and perfect, and she just knew exactly what to do at all times. But even just to have her next to me, even if she wasn't speaking, it just got my creative juices flowing, and I felt so alive when we were together. And I knew that whatever I wanted to do, whatever story I wanted to tell, I could now, because I had somebody at my side who would help me figure out how to tell that story and how to achieve it. I mean, she would literally invent pieces of kit to get a shot we had dreamt up, or she would, like another time she took every single bit of kit apart so that it would fit in our pockets. Like, we had big winter coats, and we had been booked on a budget airline because that's literally the only thing we could afford at the time. So she broke everything down, and people in the industry, you'll understand this, she broke everything down so small that we could put it all in the pockets of our winter coat. And thank God they weighed our bags and not us, because we were coming through the airport like this. We were so weighed down by kit, and then we got to the other end, got off the plane, and she put it all back together again. It was like 1,000 pieces of kit that fit in our pockets. It was extraordinary. But, most of all, she made me feel that I was worthwhile, and she understood what I was trying to do. And that's really, really rare. And I really loved what Claire said earlier, because I suddenly realized, of course, it wasn't just the people in the industry that she helped do that. It was her friends, and it was what she saw in her friends. It's what she saw in everybody. And she made everybody that she came into contact with feel so supported and encouraged, and she was genuinely happy if you were happy. And it was one of her many gifts that she gave willingly and without limits. And all she asked was you buy her a cold beer at the end of the day. No problem. And I think so many people here have felt that. I'm going to leave you guys with a song called Petit Métier, which is also by Songhoy Blues, the band that we filmed in Mali who were trying to be silenced. And I chose it because I think it has a really extraordinary message, but also as a nod to Karelle's French heritage. Petit métier in French, it just means small job. Sort of little thing you can do, little bit you can do. And what the song is basically about is, after a crisis, everybody has their small role to play. So when the boys wrote the song, they were thinking about Mali and the conflict that it had been through. And they're basically saying, like, even the shopkeeper just sweeping in front of your shop, after a battle or whatever, that's your small bit. That's your small bit that you can contribute. That's your petit métier, your small job. And there are a lot of crises that we're dealing with right now. Obviously, coronavirus and the Black Lives Matter movement, which started in America and is now sort of sweeping. There's a lot of things there's a lot of jobs that we have to do. And I really see what's happened here with Karelle as another one of these huge crises. I mean, in my mind, it's equal. Then we have it seems insurmountable what we have to do and how we have to get over this. But I think we have to take the equivalent of sort of sweeping in the floor in front of our shop, these small steps, these small little jobs, and be the sort of person that she was, sort of supportive, encouraging, clever, wise, amazing, organized, practical, all of the wonderful things that everyone's been saying. These are all of her traits. And if we can just take a small bit of that and keep that in us moving forward, that's our small bit that we can do for this world. That's our petit métier. So that's the song, Annie. Thanks.
Kanna huzaro jabirse wakin minin kanda goi anni yaguma mafonda goi kannir munde yidosu wakin minin kanda goi koi mafonda goi kanna huzaro jabirse koi guma mafonda goi kanna zari bero jabirse Kuswar kiga shede wango mana haro ganji amadandi wakir mir gandagwe alfarai shede wango manir farai ganji ima virji wakir mir gandagwe fulanai shede wango mana hawi ganji ima busu wakir mir gandagwe ir kwai ma fonda goi kanna honzaro jabirse
Hi everyone, I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah? I'm Jolene, I'm Desi's niece. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote for Karelle, and I've also been asked to read a poem on behalf of Debbie and some of Karelle's family. So this is my poem. Capturing the world's beauty through a lens, heavy lifting, climbing right to the top, doing all the jobs most would class as men's, hungry for life, never wanting to stop. Then Big C arrived and ruined it all. So many plans were yours for the taking. We got 3 years, not a long enough stall. Now each and every heart is breaking. What do we do? How do we fill this void? Try to live our lives as vibrant as you. Life as we know it, forever destroyed. Imagining where you'd be, what you'd do. Remember your strength to gain the power, to carry on every minute, every hour. And thank you. And this is a poem for Karelle, with love from your aunts, uncles and cousins. You can shed tears now that she has gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she has gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what she would have wanted, smile, open your eyes, love and go on.
Is that right? Yeah, so hello everyone, I'm Ben Harris, very good friends with Des and obviously know Karelle pretty well. Just got a short line, a few lines to say, but Karelle, we'll miss you greatly. You're one of the most smartest women I've ever met. You really left a lasting impression on me, and I can imagine you left a lasting impression on so many other people as well. I wish I could have known you just a bit more, but you're a very special lady and I'll miss you very dearly, so thank you.
Hello everyone. I'd like to read a poem written by my dad, Des. It goes like this. The promise we made, horror and succour, in equanimity's grace. Live your last without fear or pain, and when not, to not. And now, your agency lost, and mine too perplexed, with scales and degrees in ocean's uncertainties. The agony ebbs and then returns with a crash. As lucidity recedes on an opposite shore, I kneel on the sands of both of these lands, our promise adrift. And at land's end, drifting offshore, you whisper our promise, it's others you care for, that your lingering fragments should rend us no more. Untethered at last, a sailboat you are. 1,000 glittered persons, all touched magnificent, towards the sun, towards the sun. Thank you.
Well, I see trees of Greenland, red roses me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white.
Hello, hello. This is a poem by Charlotte Cooper, and it's for Karelle. When I first met you, I was entranced by your wit, but I would have laughed harder if I knew that was it. Do you remember the cafe? Watery eggs and soup looked like spit, but I'd have eaten 10 bowls if I knew that was it. The career that you entered took courage and grit, and I couldn't be prouder if I knew that was it. The last time I saw you, you looked fantastic and fit, but I would have stayed longer if I knew that was it. Goodbye was still painful, we hugged as long as befit, but I never would have let go if I knew that was it. The last time you called, you looked pale, I admit, but I would have stayed on longer if I knew that was it. I cried for 2 hours, and I felt like shit, but I would have stayed on longer if I knew that was it. When I found out you'd passed, when I know you had died, I cried, I cried, I cried. But I would have held you longer if I knew that was it. When I first met you, I was entranced by your wit, but I would have laughed harder if I knew that was it. Thank you.
I'm reading on behalf of Michelle, who went to school with Karelle. And you'll get to hear more about rhyming first names in a second, also more travel anecdotes coming up. So, it's hard to put into words what Karelle means to me. She wasn't just a friend, someone to talk to lean on, to laugh with, to cry with, to share dreams with. She is, in my very core, my very foundations. She's my childhood, and along with my parents and sister, she is the reason I am who I am today. I met Karelle at primary school when I was 7. We had matching school shoes, and our names rhymed, so it was written in the stars that we would be best friends. We very soon became inseparable and had an amazing 4 more years of primary school where we brought out the best in each other and ruled the playground with an infectious friendship that everyone wanted to be a part of, or so we felt. We also aced the 3-legged race at sports day every year, except for the controversial year when we were both too busy chatting to hear the starter gun, but we still got second place. Nothing and no one could hurt us because we were best friends and we were the best. Fact. We went to different secondary schools, but still spent most free time together and went to Girl Guides and Rangers together. It was during these years that we made our plans for the future. We were going to set up MK Productions and live in a loft apartment in New York decorated in black and white. Sounds cool. We were never too sure what the production company would do, but we spent hours working on the logo. Either that, or we would be a comedy double act. This was around the time Mel and Sue made it big. I was Mel, she was Sue. We went to see them live, actually, and got their autographs, but now I'm waffling. It was around this time our obsession with Michael Jackson reached its peak, and we would spend whole days drawing pictures of him, listening to music, and trying to recreate his dance moves unsuccessfully. One memory that has since made us cringe was of a show we put on in Rangers that Karelle and I co-wrote and co-produced, which was part tribute to Michael Jackson, part Wayne's World ripoff. I feel so sorry for the others in our Rangers troupe who had to master the Thriller dance, headbang to Bohemian Rhapsody, and as a finale, sing Heal the World. Sorry too to Françoise, Robert and Elise who had to sit through the show and tell us how great it was at the end. As soon as we were old enough, we had a holiday together. First to Rochester to spend a few days in her grandparents' apartment, where we lived, shopped and cooked on our own, living like proper grown-ups we thought we were. Then to Alicante for the summer holiday after our GCSEs, where amongst other memories we met 2 Spanish boys called Daniel and Nathaniel, and thought it was the funniest thing in the world that 2 rhyming boys met 2 rhyming girls. After secondary school, Life got in the way, but we stayed in touch always and met up regularly. I have many letters from Karelle where she had to stop writing because Colin the cat wouldn't get off her sheet of paper or stop chewing her pen. Whenever we met up, it was as if we'd never been apart. We have enjoyed a Christmas in New Zealand in a camper van and a holiday in Hong Kong when she was on her way to New Zealand and I was heading to Australia. Karelle always has been and always will be a huge part of my life. She's godmother to my daughter Madeline, who at 5 years old can wear a hat with Karelle's incredible panache, a feat that annoyingly I have never managed to, and will always be a part of me and my family. By Michelle.
Karelle. That's all Johanna would talk about all day at CNBC. I love her. She's so talented. You need to work with her too. So I was very excited when Karelle was available to me, my DOP, on a shoot to Iceland to interview the Prime Minister. It had to look amazing as it was being aired on a giant screen at a big award ceremony in Doha. We'd also need to capture lots of beauty shots of Iceland. From the start, it was obvious that Karelle was awesome. She understood that I was new to producing and was really supportive. Her enthusiasm for her job was infectious, and she told the best stories about her global adventures. She loved filming, and we loved the beautiful, crazy, weird landscape of Iceland. I got to see her in her element, intensely focused on capturing stunning footage and enjoying a new adventure. By the time we were back at Heathrow, I had the footage I needed for an awesome video and a great new friend in Karelle. Aside from her talent and her passion for filming, she was also such a good laugh. If things got a bit stressful or we encountered a strange character or two along the way, I would just look at Karelle, she would raise an eyebrow, and I knew exactly what she was thinking. It wouldn't be long before we were laughing about it. Her sense of humor would come in handy when we basically got kidnapped by the president of Georgia. As a former Soviet state, the president was petrified that he was going to be killed by Vladimir Putin, so he was very security conscious, averse to planning ahead and flanked at all times by a security sniper team. The day of our kidnapping started with great excitement as we set off in a client-hired private plane to Georgia's fanciest city, Batumi. Picture Blackpool. But it quickly became clear that this was not going to go as planned. After arriving 4 hours late, the anticipated glamorous shoot from a helicopter became Karelle filming out of an old army chopper with a flat tire, held in only by the arm of a soldier. She didn't have to do it, but this is Karelle we're talking about. There was a taste of things to come, as it soon became clear that the day shoot we signed up for was rapidly turning into an overnight trip against our wishes. We had no idea that we'd be asked to film an interview with the president, so we bought a basic travel kit. This didn't deter his team. If we insisted on having sound and lights, they would send someone on a 4-hour trip back to our hotel in the capital to get it. Our protests were futile. It didn't matter what we said. They wanted us to stay. This was turning into a hostage situation. The next day was just as chaotic. We wouldn't get the green light until the evening. This wasn't a president used to taking advice. First of all, he wanted to film outside, in the dark, and didn't care if there were no lights or the sound was awful. Thankfully, it started to rain, so we had to film inside, but not before going through a rigid security protocol with his team. Once we finally set up on a rooftop bar, packed to the gills with security staff, he had his own camera guy step in and check that Karelle had captured the money shot, a backdrop featuring a phallic new building with flashing, shiny lights. At this point, Karelle and I would film just about anything to be able to go home. After the interview, we packed up and flew back to the capital, whispering about the whole experience. By the time we landed, we were laughing about it. Amongst other glamorous locations, we would also film in Moscow, Monaco, Copenhagen, and Scunthorpe. Karelle was always my first choice. She shot the best stuff, loved to collaborate, and always had the best sense of humor. She set the gold standard of what a film shoot could be like. She also set the gold standard for friendship. During our shoots, we developed a strong bond and connected on a personal level through our shared stories of bereavement. We could talk for hours about anything and everything. She was a great listener and always gave her honest opinion as well as excellent advice. She was always the first to volunteer to help, driving across London to help me move and encouraging me to develop my camera skills. I'll always be grateful for the time we spent together when she and Des came to California to visit me when I was first settling in. I will always miss you, Karelle, but you'll live forever in my heart, in the wonderful memories I have of you and the tree I will plant in your honor.
Hi Des and Karelle's family. I just wanted to send you a very small note to say that I had the pleasure of working with Karelle many years ago. I think we started working together in 2011 while at CNBC, and I had the pleasure of travelling to Israel, Ghana, the US, India on a few occasions with Karelle, and she was an absolutely wonderful woman and a bloody brilliant DOP. She used to see things that I didn't see at all, and the footage that we'd come home with was just really second to none, and she'd always make me look good, which is great because I didn't really have a clue what I was doing back then as a producer. Our last trip together was in Turkey, where we spent a week. Can't really remember the location right now, but we had such a hoot together, and she was always just so brilliant. After a shoot, we'd always sit down and just have a lovely cold beer and talk about all the stuff going on in the world and how awful our industry basically was to women. And we'd have a good old moan, and then we'd just get, have the one or two, get a bit tipsy and start it all again the next day. I'm so sorry for your loss. Really, I wish I got to spend more time with Karelle. She was so talented. Sometimes I feel like she wasn't as appreciated as she should have been. But so lovely to hear that you're having this picnic today, and I'm sending all of my love from New York, and thinking of you all. Bye-bye.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Hello, this is Joanna Harrison, and I worked with Karelle just once in February 2017. That it's just once, I actually find really hard to believe. I feel like it was more than that. Perhaps I feel this way because I'd heard so much about Karelle from colleagues at CNBC and Alpha Grid before we worked together. Or perhaps it's because the 3 days we spent on that New Haven shoot stuck in my memory for other reasons, because it's not often I go out on a boat on a freezing morning to film a sea kelp and shellfish farmer. It could be because I stood holding a sign with Karelle's name on it for 2 hours at JFK Airport, thanks to delays caused by Trump's executive order on immigration holding everybody up. But mostly I think it's because Karelle is just unforgettable. So I thought I'd share this little snippet of our rather uneventful New England shoot with all of you. And you were all lucky enough to know her better and call her a friend. And I want you to know that, even for somebody who knew her just briefly, she made a lasting impression. And if it's true that people live on when you talk about them and think about them, then I want to contribute to making this happen. Karelle had been loaned to me by Johanna Schwartz. I'd been charged with directing a shoot in the US that Yo-Yo would be editing in London, and I'd been given a long list of shots to gather. I'd written a script, so I knew what we were after, but Yo-Yo's shot list was pure art. Big, bold, beautiful, she told me. Karelle was to be the interpreter, the holder of the information and the creative talent that would turn my script into Yo-Yo's vision. My job, as I saw it, was not to be the weak link in this very strong chain, so I needed to make my side of things run smoothly so Karelle could do her job with a minimum of fuss from me. In the end, it turned out that my role on that shoot was to hold Karelle steady on the boat as we were tossed around by the waves. I had to grab her by the waistband of her oversized fisherman's waterproofs. We had terrible weather, and because of that we had to wait around on the shore for a long time before it was safe enough to film. It was midwinter, and so with nothing open, we decided to drive around the neighbourhood, looking at the New England homes. We had a lot of time to chat on this shoot as we drove between locations and then over meals and pints of beer at the end of each day. I found her so easy to talk to. I remember she told me about her recent birthday. I think it had been held in the Lake District. She explained 5G to me. Des was working on this. She talked about her dogs, making me think it was about time we got one. And somehow we stumbled on the subject by accident. She told me the story of what had happened to Chris. I didn't know anything of this. I probably would have avoided the subject if I'd known, but I was glad to talk to her about it all. Later in an email, she said she remembered rather oversharing at dinner and getting into a snotty mess, which is not how I saw it at all. Anyway, even though the weather was against us, the shoot went really brilliantly. We were on the water for hours while the farmer pulled up rows of kelp and sorted through it. We climbed from one boat to another to get a better shot. Karelle was leaning over the edge, getting way too close to a cage full of oysters as the farmer sloshed them around to inspect them, salty, fishy water spraying everywhere. My email that night to Yo-Yo ended, P.S. All of Karelle's kit smells like oyster poop. The people we filmed responded so well to Karelle. She was neither in their way nor shy of getting close enough for the shot. She was in charge. I don't know how else to describe it, really. I wish I'd paid more attention to what she does differently as a camera operator, because I think it would make me a better director. But I did learn that being big and bold and beautiful is not about racing around and shooting everything you see the way mine works, or using huge amounts of kit to set up a shot, but about curating what you see, focusing in, using the available light. I don't know, I wish I did. I was so happy to have had a chance to work with Karelle. I'm sorry you've all lost her. It's a really crappy thing that's happened. I hope these stories help, even from people who knew her just in passing. I know she had so many people who knew and loved her deeply. I send a big hug to you all.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Yeah. That was very nice. Right now, we're going to do something that they did when Karelle's first husband, Chris, died. He died tragically, I think, within pretty much the first year of their marriage. And it's very sad, and I wish I'd known him. What they did was they planted a lot of trees in honour of Chris, and I think Karelle would like it if we did the same thing. And I know some trees have already been planted in her honour, and I think some of the ladies here are about to do the same, so let's do that. Let's plant a tree.
Hi everybody. While the tree's being planted, I just wanted to say a couple of words myself. I first met Karelle around 20 years ago when a very excited Chris Walker, my friend, came running up to me to tell me that he'd just met the most amazingly talented assistant camerawoman, and not only that, she was an absolutely totally hot biker chick. We very soon became friends and spent many a happy time around the pubs of Hackney and Stoke Newington, riding our bikes together and very occasionally getting to work together. Sadly, as Deza said, Chris died in 2005. At his service, Richard, his father, and at the time Karelle's father-in-law, read a poem at his service, and he's asked me today to read that poem for all of you. And I think the words and the meaning behind those words have an absolute resonance with Karelle herself and the way that she'd like us to remember her. The poem is called "Do Not Stand at My Grave and Weep" by Mary Elizabeth Fry. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there, I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on the ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there, I did not die. Thank you.
This is my mum's favourite poem that she's remembered from a child. She didn't quite remember it all, but we Googled it recently and we've got all the words, and she'd like to share it with you now. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks above all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me,
but only God can make a tree.
But for Karelle we will plant this tree.
Testing. I wouldn't consider myself a public speaker, but this doesn't really feel like public. It feels like Karelle binded something much better than that. I didn't prepare a speech of my own, but if I was to say anything, I had a privilege of knowing her for 10 years. And she had such patience for my dad and strength that gave me and Jordan to push through with him. And I thought that would be quite funny to mention because she'd be laughing too. She introduced me to Rob, her dad, probably about 10 years ago, I'd say, and did a nice I'm very grateful to have been introduced to Karelle's parents. Rob helped me through a week of design industry experience when I was in year 10, and for that I won an award due to unfavourable favouritism. And yeah, I'll thank you for that, Rob, and I've gone in to do design probably from your inspiration as well. So I've been given a speech to talk to from Steve, Tina, Eva and Isla Cleary. To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die. Karelle, our first impressions, what a cool, smart, creative biker chick introduced to us over a pint by Des over 10 years ago. We loved how you brought so much light to our dear friend Des's life. Whilst we didn't see much of you over that following decade after I moved to Australia, we feel very fortunate to have had the chance to spend some time, quality time with you in Sydney in 2014, where we all really got to know you and love you even more. Some great memories of spending a beautiful New Year's Eve with you on the harbour, not your harbour, that'd be impressive. A short trip to the Hunter Valley for wine tasting, and just lovely simple times at our home playing board games and you spoiling the girls and teaching Eva how to use your camera. We really wish we could be there today in person with you all and talk about all our wonderful memories of Karelle. Sending you all our love from California, Steve, Tina, Eva and Isla Cleary. Thank you.
I think that's the finish, I think, of all the prepared things. Is that right, guys? Pretty much. So unless anybody else wants to come up and take the mic and say something, we're just going to chill now, play a bit of music, and there's very little else. Oh, two things. Some of the flowers from the reef are sitting here at the side of the big tent. Please free to take it apart and take some flowers from them reefs. And then the other thing is, as you go through the tunnel to go back towards your cars, you should see lots of little butterflies stuck in the trees. The kids put them up there earlier. Each one of them butterflies has some seeds in it. Let's hope they're not triffids, but take them butterflies if you want from the trees and put them in your garden and see what turns up in honour of Karelle. Thank you very much. You've made this really special.
where you only need the light when it's burning low, only miss the sun when it starts to snow, only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low, only hate the road when you're missing home, only know you love her when you let her go. And you let her go.